Hey babes, it's Sharonda Isadora and welcome to Brazen Babe Reviews. And during this video, I'll be talking about a book, and that book is Who Would Have Thought by Britt Joni. So here's your cover, this is a beautiful cover. I love this cover. So, as always, why can't I remember shit? I'll read the blurb. I'll read the blurb and then I'll give my thoughts on this book. So, here we go. After Jaleesa Spice finished culinary school, she is determined to get from under her family's thumb and escape a past she feels is riddled with heartache and independence. She sets her sights on Healing, North Carolina, to gain that freedom and independence, only to find that the only space she needs is releasing all thoughts on what others think. Ancient Truth, and that is his name, Ancient Truth. I like that. Ancient Truth is a reclusive cannabis shop owner. The only thing that matters in his world is rooted in bringing sunshine to others who suffer silently like him. When all is dark in his world and he's on the cups of giving up, the new woman in town comes tumbling into his life to force a change. When it comes to these two, they should remember when it hurts, there's a purpose. You just have to stick around long enough to see what it is. I like this book. It was a pleasantly surprising book. So you have Jaleesa and Ancient, who both for not related reasons have their own issues going on in their life. Jaleesa is still dealing with her parents' fuck ups. Okay, she is the outside baby. Her mother is messing around with a married man and what have you, and all the shit that goes on with that. But Jaleesa is suffering from her parents' fuck ups. And then you have Ancient, who, for all good intents and purposes, came from a well-loved, well-oiled family, right? But Ancient is sick, and he is at a point in his life he feels like God gave him a bad hand, and he's angry about that. And sometimes that anger, even though he returns the love that his family gives to him, he sometimes in turns turn that anger that he has towards a higher power. He turns that anger on his family. And when we're going through this book, we find out that Ancient is going through a lot of things. He's also one of those people, which I found like that was very relatable for me, is that he suffers in silence. He doesn't want anybody, when he's going through pain, when his body's going through pain and things of that nature, he doesn't want anybody to know what he's going through. So this book was really an amazing read. What I loved so much about this book was you see the healing that both Jaleesa and Ancient have to go through. Rather it came from like family members or friends or things of that nature, but we really see the healing that they go through in order for both of them to be on a good side once we get towards the end of the story. Jaleesa was more of in my opinion, Jaleesa was more of a complication than Ancient, because Jaleesa, even though she's going through, she's gone through therapy, even with her mother, family therapy with her mom and her sisters, things of that nature, Jaleesa still has a lot of anger in her because of how she grew up. Her grandparents had to raise her when she had two perfectly sane, normal parents. It was just that her parents, for whatever reason, weren't able to deal with their shit, and that kind of like flew back to Jaleesa, and she's out in the world, even though she's trying her best to heal, when that unresolved trauma of trying to say fuck it and move on doesn't work, she tends to push it you know, push it out towards everybody around her. So when we first go inside this book, when she first meets Ancient, you know, she's giving people attitude, you know, even she's new in this town and she's giving people attitude. And I was like, girl, you know, and it's funny because, you know, we all walk around, you know, we say we're healing and we're doing the things, you know, we have, you know, our spiritual healing and you know, however we do our spiritual healing, you know, we're doing things, you know, we're meditating, we're doing all these things, but still, when you don't deal with everything on the inside, you know, you still can come off to some people as a fucking asshole. And Jaleesa was coming off as an asshole to Ancient because when they first met, she was really rude. Because I was like, why you gotta be, I was listening like, bitch, why you gotta be rude? You ain't gotta be rude, you know? And then Jaleesa things is because people tended to, I struggle with that part of the book because when we first go inside of the story, Jaleesa is moving. You know, she feels like I got to get away from my sisters and stuff like that. Like I have to start doing things on my own. You know, I'm grown, I'm 26 and still him, you know, to her, she feels like she's still dependent on people. So Jaleesa wants to do shit on her own without anyone's help. But, you know, when we first go inside of the story, just a tad bit of a spoiler, you know, her you know, her sisters, you know, they gifted her, you know, money towards the down payment of her house in this new town she was moving. I was like, I don't understand why you mad. Because let somebody give, girl, I'll be like, thank you. I was like, I don't understand why she mad. But, you know, as you read more of the story and you try to understand all the things that Jaleesa is just trying to get, the safe space that she's trying to get herself in, you can understand. But when I was reading that part, I was like, girl, what? I mean, like, later on down in the read, you know, we're understanding. She's starting to understand, and she's, you know, she's like, yeah, I was an asshole. You know, she's saying to herself, oh, my God, I was such an asshole to my sisters for giving me this money towards this house. But, you know, I'm thanking them because, you know, who the fuck would do that, you know? But I was just like, Jaleesa, girl, if you don't get out your own head, which she was a lot in this book. But again, as we read this story, we really kind of like understand why. The other thing I loved about this book was the progress of Jaleesa's and Ancient's relationship. They just kind of like, it wasn't like no forced thing or something that it's just something that happened. You know what I mean? Like once they got past this kind of like mushiness that they, you know, seemed to like every time they saw each other, it's just like, I want to punch it in your face a little bit, you know. They're attracted to each other, but it's kind of like, ooh, you're an asshole, you're ass, you know, you're both thinking you're assholes and stuff. So, you know, it's not gelling really well. But once a situation comes up and Ancient ends up helping Jaleesa out when she most needs it, it's like their relationship on page just flowed so easily. There wasn't really a whole lot of conflict between them. Like Ancient, because he was going through his own shit and he kind of like picked up like, you know, there's more to this woman than, you know, than her just being an asshole. Like there's really a real reason why she's being an asshole, and I can understand that, you know what I mean? And I'm going to do my best to try to help her without, you know, trying to be an asshole back towards her. And I like that because every time she pushed, he pulled, and he pulled her towards him, you know what I mean? He just did it in just like a loving, caring way. Like their relationship just flowed so well. It just made sense, like by the time that we got towards this end of the story, that they were in a relationship. But it really didn't need to be said, because as a reader, I just felt like these two go to fuck together. I don't really care, you know, if it has to be said on page, you know, like these two go to fuck together. They just belong together, you know. So that's how I felt about the story. I really didn't have anything to dislike about this book. Jaleesa, she kind of like grows on you, but again, as you read the story and all the bullshit that she had to go through growing up, you know, dealing with her father, her mother, and then dealing with her father's wife, and her father's kids, you know, you understand, like, bitch, I'll be angry too, you know, and I'll be like, I'll be fighting bitches too, because y'all ain't gonna come up in my face talking about some of your daddy. Like, bitch, that's my daddy too. And I ain't asked to be the fuck here, you know, and you just got to read the book. But I love like the gems and the jewels and all like the the toxicity that Britt Joni put on Paige, because, you know, we always try to smooth it, you know, smooth situations like that over. But I like that she put that on Paige, because then it's making it made you kind of like understand Jaleesa's character more, you know, and really just root for her and be there for her, because it's like she didn't ask to be a product of, you know, a toxic relationship that her parents chose to have, you know. So you're rooting for her, and, you know, even though she comes off, you know, very wrong sometimes inside of this story, is just like, you can't even hate the girl, because none of this shit is her fault. She's just trying to move through life and be successful in life, you know, without motherfuckers dogpiling on her like how they dogpiled on her when she was growing up and stuff. So it was just good to see it. And it was good to see like her growth on Paige. Like, you know, she had these, you know, this very complicated relationship with her mother, but it was good to see that, you know, by the end of this book, she decided to, you know, to have some type of relationship with her mom, you know, because it was just like, ooh, her mother was tripping. You know, even though her mother was doing her own type of healing and stuff, you know, it was just like, ooh, lady, you still on some bullshit. Like, why, you know? But this is a really good book, and I just loved all the mess and the drama. And I love the healing and the love that we saw on Paige. It was just a good mesh of all things inside of this story. There's nothing to dislike about this book. Oh my God, it's so freaking good. So I would say read it, check it out. I think reading these characters and, you know, and reading the situations that they're going through, you know, you could really relate to both, you know, to either Jaleesa or Ancient, you know. Ancient's situation, again, his isn't as, it's serious because, you know, he's a sick man and he's trying to handle, you know, not be mad, you know, at the world, you know, and still move on with life and stuff. But, you know, just like reading like his, you know, his kind of like resistance to, you know, he has a twin in here, and, you know, just reading about his past and his past relationship with his twin, like, why am I sick and why he not sick, you know. All that stuff on Paige was just so good to see, because it just really gets you to thinking, like, you know, these are the feelings and the thoughts that people actually have, you know. And the way Britt Joni handled it on Paige was just so good, you know. It's just very realistic and very feeling. You're gonna have a lot of feels when you're reading this book. I actually listened to it through my Alexa app, which I knew about, but I discovered today, and bitch, I was just like, oh, this is perfect. I love this. Because I was listening to it all through the nail shop. Man was talking to me about my nails and stuff. I was like, sir, just hurry up so I can finish listening, you know, because it's just that engaging, the story. It's just really, really good. I don't think there's anything to dislike about this book. It's a very good book. So check it out. It is available on Kindle. It's also available through the Kindle Unlimited program. So, if you are so interested, check out Who Would Have Thought by Britt Joni. This is a really excellent read. I implore, encourage, even if your TBR pal is you, Giselle, read it. All right, that's it.